to about 11. So I guess it's time to start. So yeah, hi everyone again. Thanks so much for coming to this talk and to the conference in general. And thanks to Lewis for putting on Escapazon. It's been all a very quickly organised thing. So I'm sure it's been massively stressful to put together, but it's really cool that you've done it. So there's going to be some time for questions at the end, but feel free to ask questions as we go through the chat thing. I think it has a special section for questions. I might answer a few as we go along, or I may leave them all to the end. We'll see how that goes. So I'm going to be talking today about live video escape rooms. First, who am I? I'm Tom. My usual job is making BuzzShot, which is some software for escape rooms. Usually we process about 2 million players a year for a few hundred escape rooms. But right now, no one goes to escape rooms, unfortunately, as I'm sure you're all very painfully aware. So what we've done with BuzzShot is offered all our customers to pause their subscriptions, which most of them have taken us up on that. So that is kind of dormant for the moment, but will rise again once the escape room industry is sort of able to have people coming to their rooms again. So if you are interested in software for doing check-in, team photos, and follow-up emails, then and text messages, then yeah, do check out BuzzShot. But yes, right now that's not quite so relevant. So what I've been doing recently is I've been trying to help out with the new trend of people offering live video versions of their escape rooms. So games that can be played live via video link. And the few of the things I've done for that is I've created the live video escape rooms group on Facebook, which is a group for people who are creating these kind of games to chat and share advice and just help each other out. And I've also created livevideoescaperooms.com, which is a directory site, which is completely free, and it's just about telling players that this exists and giving them all the links so they can find games that they're going to want to play. Hopefully, bringing people together and helping out with that. Before I go on, I just want to say thanks to a few people over the last few days. I've been interviewing some people who have created these kind of games, and a lot of what they've said to me has really informed a lot of what you're going to see in this talk. So sometimes I'll quote them directly, but a lot of it's just background stuff that has really helped me with in terms of thinking about all of this stuff. I'm going to thank them again at the end, but I just wanted to thank them right up front because they've all been incredibly helpful. What's been happening recently is everyone's very, very aware. Escape rooms are closed. We don't know when they're going to be able to reopen. That's quite a big thing. Even once we do reopen, some of the players may be reluctant. I mean, I'm really hoping that what happens is that everyone's so fed up with lockdown once we're able to go out that escape rooms suddenly start doing really good business. But we don't know yet. What's needed at the moment? Well, obviously, escape room owners need income. That's pretty important. Suddenly having your income completely cut off is not great, especially when you have staff costs, when you have rent, when you have all those kind of things. I think it's also important to look at how you can keep players engaged with your brand, because you want people to remember that they love your escape room and so that once they are able to come back, they do. And then a more general problem at the moment, I think, is just social isolation. You know, everyone's stuck at home. No one's able to go out. No one's able to see their friends. And I think that's just a general problem that anything that helps with that, I think, is a really good thing. So what are people in the industry doing at the moment to help with some or all of those problems? There are people selling gift cards, which I think is a great idea. That's a way of allowing your fans and your players to support your business, even though they can't actually come now. They can buy a gift card and then maybe they can come later. A lot of people are creating online games and puzzles, so all kinds of sort of puzzle type event and adventure type of things. A lot of these things are just free, which helps with keeping the engagement and just keeping people interested. And some of them are paid as well, which is really cool. Of course, there are things like puzzle boxes, so sort of escape room boxes that you can sell. So some people are selling those. People can buy them, do them at home, get their kind of escape room fix that way. And then there's a whole range of other kind of play at home games. Everything from escape rooms in a box type of things to self-print games where you don't even need to ship anything. But the thing I want to talk about right now are live video escape rooms. So live video escape rooms, in the way I'm defining them, are games that you're playing via live video. So you've got a live video link with you, a games master, and then probably your friends as well. So it's something that can be done socially. The other thing about these is, of course, they can be played anywhere in the world, which is quite an interesting thing and quite different from traditional escape rooms. So there are a variety of types. It's all really early days, so people are experimenting, which I think is really good. Like now is the time to experiment. People understand that now is a very different time, and I think they're quite willing to try new things and to experiment with stuff. But yeah, the broad types that I'm seeing at the moment, there's the real life escape rooms, and that's where you're taking an actual escape room that's usually one that already existed. Maybe you've built it especially for this, but most of the time it's something that already existed, and you're just allowing people to play it remotely. So obviously that's going to require a little bit of adaptation in many cases, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But yeah, and it's typically played via a point of view camera. So you have a games master. They have a camera, and the team who are connecting from different places. So it's usually more than one location. There's different households all connecting via separate video links, and they're all instructing the games master on what to do and how to solve the puzzles. Then there's also some puzzle box type games, and that's where people are taking their puzzle box things, which are escape room in a box type of things, and allowing people to play those via live video. So there you might have a point of view camera, you might have a fixed camera, because this is a more kind of thing you can stick on a table and play there. But still has the aspect of people all connecting via live video, there being a real games master to interact with, and of course being able to play with your friends, even though you can't actually go and see your friends at the moment. Then moving into something that's quite different, but I think still comes under the same kind of broad category. There's the audio escape rooms. So if you've ever watched the podcast Escape This Podcast, you'll have a very good idea of what these are. And in fact, a lot of the ones that people are offering right now are escape rooms that were designed by Danny on Escape This Podcast, and I believe that they've been making them available for some escape rooms to run, which is really, really generous of them and really nice. So an audio escape room is where you still have a live games master, but they're kind of taking you through and describing the escape room. Maybe the escape room doesn't actually exist, you're not actually seeing it. So it's not always just audio. There might be, you might have some visual aspects of it as well, some pictures, some maps and things. And yeah, these can also be very fun, and they still have the kind of the aspect of it's something that you can play live, that you are interacting with a human, you're interacting with your friends. It still has a lot of the same benefits, I think. And of course, people are going to be trying all kinds of other stuff as well. So keep an eye on what's happening. So the thing I want to talk about mostly at the moment is the real life escape rooms type, because this is something where something where you can reuse the escape rooms you already have, assuming you can get access to them at the moment. And I think that's something that's really important. So how these work is you have a games master or a sort of a host. They act as the player's avatar. So they have a point of view camera, typically. So it's like you're kind of seeing through their eyes. This could be, and these might be an existing game you have, but I am seeing some people actually creating new games, often out of the bits they have from their old games or from games they were about to make or that kind of thing. We're seeing some people take their mobile games and set them up in a room in their house, that kind of stuff as well. There's lots of solutions to the sort of varying constraints that the people are under given the current situation. So I think that the point of view camera is pretty constant. Most people are doing that. Some people are also doing multiple cameras, so maybe the players have access to some extra cameras that they can control, maybe the pan tilt kind of cameras, and I'll show you some examples of those in a little bit. And then there are various approaches to inventory systems, which are systems of letting the players have sort of a list of pictures, usually of the items that they've already found in the room, which is a sort of an approach to allow people to sort of not always be working all together, to allow them to separately look at some things. In some kind of games, that's really needed. In other kind of games, not so much. And yeah, we'll look at that a little bit as well. So if you're thinking of doing this, one of the first questions you might be asking is, well, what do I already have a game that might be suitable for this kind of thing? And what we're seeing so far, and I'm sure there will be big exceptions to this, but what we're seeing so far is that the simpler Gen 1 style games are the ones that seem to adapt most easily. So games that are maybe a bit less tech, lots of locks and that kind of thing, lots of codes. Smaller games are probably better for this kind of thing at the moment, and we're seeing a lot of single room games, or games with only a few rooms, and that makes it easier for the players to kind of keep track of where they are, because of course disorientation is a problem you're really going to have to deal with in this kind of new medium. And you've also got to ask, should we build something new? Should we use an existing thing? Should we adapt? And those kind of questions, I think, are going to really come down to what do you have access to? What are your current constraints? So I wanted to go and look at some of the practical things. So I'm going to spend a good amount of this talk just talking about the practical setup of what you need in terms of hardware and software. So let's look at hardware first. Some things you might need. You're not going to need all of these things. You're going to need at least some of these things. You're almost certainly going to need a main camera, so that's probably going to be the camera that's attached to the Games Master, the point of view camera. You're definitely going to need some form of network connection, and this is definitely something that people are discovering as they test these games, is that it's really important to have a solid network connection. So you're going to need decent broadband, but as well as that, you're going to have to make sure that your Wi-Fi extends properly to the escape room. So some people are finding they have to put in repeaters or run cables or other things like that, just to ensure that there's a decent network connection to the game room. Lighting is important. I mean, I think lighting is important in any escape room, but it becomes differently important once you are doing live video. You're probably going to need more lighting. So if you've got moody lighting in your escape rooms, you may need to jack that up a little bit, because you need enough lights for your cameras to work properly. You're also going to want to be talking to the players a lot. For that, a headset might be helpful. Not everyone's using that. Some people are just talking directly into phones or other ways of capturing their voice. But the only way you have of communicating with the players and finding out what they want to do is via voice. So sorting that out is definitely going to be important. Then for the camera, you can just hold the camera in your hand and sort of walk around with it like this. You're going to get very tired arms if you do that. You're also going to get very used to operating locks with one hand. So what a lot of people are doing is they're using body mounts or tripods, and I'll talk in a minute about some approaches that people are taking to that. Then we mentioned secondary cameras before, so you might want to provide an extra view over the room that people can sort of select into if they want to. And finally, a lot of this equipment is very power hungry, so you're going to want to find some way of keeping it charged while you're moving around in the room. And some external batteries are probably going to be necessary. Maybe not at first, but probably as you move on. So one thing that Daniel said to me in the interview I did with him very recently, Daniel of helpusescape.com, one thing I thought was really important was start simple. So I'm going to talk about quite a lot of complicated things that you could do, both in hardware and software during this talk, but you probably don't need to do all of them, and you may not need to do most of them. So start with the simplest thing you can. We all, I think, need to save money at the moment, so don't go out and buy all the things first. See what you can do with the stuff that you have available. And with that in mind, I'm going to talk about first the very simplest hardware option, which is do it all from a phone. So phones have cameras. Phones can run the streaming software, which is important. Phones can transmit your voice as well. So we're seeing a lot of people using iPhones to do this. So Julia from Haas Escape said she started off by trying with an iPhone SE, found the camera on that was not quite good enough, but moved to an iPhone XR, and that gives excellent video quality. Daniel at Help Us Escape has actually tried an iPhone X and found that it was a bit too complicated and a bit of a pain in terms of lighting setup, and actually found an iPhone 7 worked much better. So, but of course, the very first thing you should try is what you have available, and that may well be good enough for what you need. If you are looking for much better camera quality, then you might want to look at one of the kind of action cam type cameras, like the GoPro or the Sony HD300. So these are the kind of cameras that people use, when they're out doing sports type of things to capture their adventures. They're very small, they're very high quality. In the case of the GoPro, they have a sort of slightly fisheye lens, which you may consider an upside or a downside, but it certainly means that you get a wide angle and you get to capture sort of more of the room as you're going around. Another thing that these cameras tend to have is image stabilization. So if you're doing a lot of moving around, it reduces the jerkiness and reduces sort of seasick type of things that some people might experience when they're viewing point of view cameras. I should note that the latest iPhones also have some image stabilization, which I believe is quite good. These cameras can produce really, really high quality video, but something you should remember is that the software you choose will probably impose a cap on quality. So you might be able to produce the best pristine 1080p video stream, but if you're going to put that through Zoom, that's not what your customers are going to see, and they may not really notice the difference. If you do use one of these extra cameras, then you're going to need some kind of capture hardware. Popular one is the Elgato Cam Link, and this just takes the HDMI output from one of these cameras and then plugs into USB in a computer so that you can actually get it onto the computer, get it out to the streaming things. And again, if you're using one of these higher quality cameras, you're going to need some kind of broadcast thing. You're going to need a computer to do the actual broadcasting. You're probably going to end up with a laptop in a backpack if you go that route. I would very, very much recommend just looking at whatever you've got. It doesn't have to be very powerful. If you are looking to buy a laptop for that purpose, one I would recommend having a look at is the GPD Pocket 2. It's an absolutely tiny laptop. You can see the picture to scale there, and it's very powerful and more than capable of doing what you have. But yeah, like I said, use what you have. So in terms of holding the camera, there are a few options of that. Like I said before, it's just holding it in your hand is going to be hard for you. It's also going to be really jerky and a lot of movements. So stability is important, both when you're moving around the room and when you're still and focusing on something. And you're also going to need your hands for some puzzles. So yeah, I've definitely heard from some people who have been holding the camera that they have developed the skill of opening locks and padlocks with one hand, but and that may be what you want to do, but that may not be practical at all for your room. So one of the solutions to this is to just get some kind of tripod. And there's two distinct options here. There's the mini tripods. So this is what Daniel at helpusescape.com, and apologies, but I've typoed that and put it as helpmeescape.com on the slide. It is helpusescape.com. But yeah, he uses a mini tripod. He's streaming from his phone. And he's just able to hold that and carry that around. But then when he gets to a puzzle that needs a close up, you can put that little tripod down. You can focus it on the lock or whatever thing he's going to show you, and then he has both hands to do whatever he needs to do. A distinct different option to that is the one used by the guys at Southend Escape Rooms for their game The Virus, and they actually have a full-size tripod. So a full-size stand that has they actually use an iPad mini for their streaming. They found that they wanted to have a bigger screen so they could see what the players are seeing more clearly. And they will move this tripod around. Now, from the player's point of view, it seems like it's a point of view thing. You think that you're attached to a Games Master, but actually you end up with a much smoother movement, both as they're moving it around, because it's bigger and bulkier. When they move it around, that's the smoother movement, but also when they put it anywhere, it just stays there, which is really good. The disadvantage of that, of course, is that your room has to be suitable for that. It may be that you need to look down in low places and up high and things, and that just really doesn't work with a tripod like that. And a tip I got from the guys at Southend Escape Rooms was to mark out on the floor where all good positions for the tripod, where they know they'll get a good view of a particular puzzle. And in their particular game, the player just doesn't see the floor, so that is totally fine. But that your mileage may vary on that. So another option that various people are trying is to use body mounts. So we got Max, the Games Master at Escape.Anywhere, here with his full setup, and you can see that he has a GoPro attached to a strap across his chest. And I think he has some flexibility to to pull that out a bit and reposition it. And then Julia from Haas Escape is using a body mount. And these body mounts you can buy online, and they fit a little bit like a vest, and then they've got a sort of a long neck coming out from your chest. And the advantage of that is Julia is able to actually see what the players are seeing through the front of the phone while she's doing that. She has her arms free, and it just gives a really good perspective. One thing you might think when you're looking at mounts is you might think, why not put it on the head? Because we're going with a with a point of view, so why not have a camera from the person's head, that is their point of view. You're going to find if you do that, though, that you're going to get a lot of movement, and it's just a little bit confusing for the player using it. So having it mounted lower down on your chest is probably a better option. So lighting, of course, is very important. Like I said before, you are going to need you may well need to update your lighting a little bit, because the constraints of filming are different from the constraints of people playing. There are various options. You might have wrist-mounted lights or head-mounted lights. Those are quite good. You might find you want them on all the time, or you might find that you just want to turn them on when you do a close-up on something, when someone's looking at a particular item and they just can't see it well enough, and you can turn on those lights. One of the easiest options, though, is can you just change the light bulbs? You probably already have lighting in your room. Maybe you can just replace the light bulbs with brighter lights. You might also want to think about the well, obviously the brightness is important. You might also want to think about the temperature and how that interacts of the light and how that interacts with your camera. Is a warm light or a cold light going to look better? And that will depend on your camera and on the mood you're going to get, but it may differ from what those choices would have been when what those choices would be essentially when you're doing them for players in the room. So there's also secondary cameras. So a lot of people are experimenting with these at the moment. I think that they're probably not necessary, but they are quite a cool thing you can do, and they're definitely something that can sort of set you apart a little bit to give the players sort of an extra view on the room. So you probably already have security cameras in your escape room. If you're able to give people access to them, that could be enough. Of course, the problem is, can you give them access and then can you take that access away again? Because you don't want to give everyone who's ever played your room access to your security cameras forever. That's not a good idea for so many reasons. So what Rob at Ready Mail 1 suggested was he found some cameras which use an app called MIPC, and that actually allows you to give guest access, so that you can give access and you can take it away again. And there's various different brands of camera that seem to use this same app. Not quite sure what's going on there, but you can find them on Amazon. They're fairly inexpensive. They have remote controlled pan tilt, so the players can actually move the cameras through the app. Although you're going to have to explain to them that if multiple players in the team are trying to do it at the same time, that is just not going to work. So yeah, that's definitely something that has to be kind of worked out and will be different for different teams. And then, as I mentioned before, headsets. A headset can be really useful, and that's going to depend what kind of setup you have in terms of what type of headset you need. But just some way so that you are hearing what the players are saying loud and clear, and they can hear you, because you're going to be dealing with maybe 5 people all shouting at you at once, and you need to be able to hear them. And then finally, batteries. This is something you can probably start by not worrying about too much. If you just don't accept too many bookings to start with, then this is fine. You probably the charge in the laptop or the phone or whatever you're using will last for a game. If you start accepting bookings all through the day, if you've got 5 bookings back to back, your phone is not going to last. It's you're gonna, however much time you have to charge in between each game is probably not going to be enough. And in those cases, you need some kind of charging solution. So for phones and those kind of things, just a standard USB battery pack will work. You can have a few of them, so one can be charging while the other's in use. If you're using a laptop, you're going to have something a bit more beefy. I mean, maybe you have a laptop with removable batteries. That's ideal. If you were using the laptop I suggested earlier, the GPT Pocket 2, there's I've got one on the screen here, a battery that can support that. That's the Tron Smart Presto. So it is possible to get batteries that will charge a laptop like that. So yeah, that's the basic hardware setup stuff. So let's talk now about software. So again, there are some things you might need. You are definitely not going to need all of these things, but you definitely will need some of them. So we've got video streaming software. You're going to need some way to get your video to the players and to allow the players to see each other and see you. We've got broadcast software. So that's something you may not need, but you may want software that helps you sort of edit the video essentially before it goes out. Then we got booking software. You're going to need to take bookings somehow, and but you already have booking software almost certainly, and although it may not be ideal, you can probably use what you've got. And then finally, there's an inventory system, which is like I said before, a way of showing people what items they have and allowing them to inspect them more closely. And again, you may not need that. You may decide you do. I definitely always start simple and then add things as you need them. So yeah, that's I put the quote from Daniel again, and I think That's just as important in terms of software as it is in terms of hardware. So one option, if you wanted to do really high quality streams, is you've got Twitch or YouTube Live. These are streaming platforms that will let you stream. In fact, I believe you can even sometimes stream directly from the camera. So, for example, the GoPro might let you. I believe it lets you stream directly to Twitch or YouTube, which is pretty cool. But there are some issues with this. Privacy is an issue in terms of how do you make the rooms the streams private. I think you can work that out, but it's not always going to be obvious. But then the biggest issue with these, as far as I am aware, is latency. So these kind of platforms would tend to introduce a latency of maybe up to 5 seconds, and that kind of kills things when you're trying to have conversations with people or try to take instructions. If there's a lag of 5 seconds between you saying something to them, them saying something to you, and you being able to even start doing it. Another limitation of YouTube is that it only allows you to do live streaming when you already have 1,000 subscribers. So YouTube may just be a non-starter for a lot of us. But yeah, depending on what you're where you're going with your game, like I said, this is a wide open space still. You may have ideas for games that where this isn't a problem, and maybe quality of video is really important to you. In that case, maybe you should be looking at Twitch. But I think for most people, the things you should be looking at is video conferencing software. So there's a bunch of video conferencing software out there. It tends to be either free or very low cost. We got things like Apple FaceTime and WhatsApp video and Facebook Live video. Things like WhatsApp and FaceTime, of course, are either only on one platform or only on mobile. Neither of those are ideal. You don't want to only sell to iPhone users, I assume, and playing escape rooms remotely from a phone is just not as fun as if you can play it from a laptop, because it's a lot harder to see what's going on. It's a lot harder to see the game's master and stuff. Google Hangouts is a good choice. I've played a few games using that. It works very well. You can set it so that players are just seeing the games master stream, which is great. It does require a Google account. Maybe that's a problem for some of your players. Maybe not. It really depends on your players. Then there's Jitsi, which is open source, and you can even host that yourself. I mean, I highly recommend that you don't, because that's not complexity I think you need in your life, but you can. But they also have a hosted version that you can use. They are pretty good from a sort of privacy standpoint. That's really good in terms of them existing for video conferencing, but they also have some compatibility and performance problems, so the video is maybe not going to be quite as good. You're going to have more players who have issues with being able to get the stream working, and I think that's probably just not something you really want in your life at the moment. That's not a thing that's going to improve things for you. The most popular streaming software right now for this kind of game is Zoom. It works incredibly well for this. They have really good video quality and latency. People don't need to sign up for a Zoom account to join your game. You can send them an invite link. When the time comes, they click on that link. They will have to download software, but Zoom have made it incredibly easy to do that. But then they just go straight into the game. One of the things to be aware with Zoom is there's been some privacy issues recently that have been in the media. I don't think those issues are too much of a problem for escape rooms. I'm a little bit worried that the government of my country is using Zoom for cabinet meetings, but I think the privacy requirements for an escape room are maybe slightly less than a cabinet meeting. But it's worth keeping an eye on both those issues in the press and also what the public's thoughts on those are, because if people decide that they don't like Zoom, then maybe that becomes a problem. But right now I think it's the best option. I would say be flexible if people ask. I wouldn't ever offer them choices of streaming software up front, because I think that will confuse most people. But if anyone says they don't want to use a particular streaming software, be ready to use other stuff, and it's probably not too much of a problem. So there's also some broadcast software. So these bits of software are software that can take a video stream and can add stuff to it. So you almost certainly don't need this. You definitely don't need this at first. Test stuff without this first. But if you want to take your broadcast to the next level, then something like OBS or XSplit are pretty good. They would let you do things like picture-in-picture. For example, I'm using OBS right now to do this stream. So I've got my little window in the bottom. I can even move it live. So yeah, I'm now in a different part of the screen that you can do much more complicated things that I don't understand how to do because I've only been using this since yesterday. But it is capable of doing a lot. You could put countdown timers on the screen. You could put logos on your screen. Big thing is, of course, you'd need to integrate it with whatever you're using to stream your video to your players. If for example, with OBS, you could use the Virtual Cam plugin, which would allow you to integrate with Zoom or Google Meetings, although unfortunately that is only available on Windows. Also, you should really watch out for latency. It is incredibly easy to introduce latency, and each bit of software, in fact, is definitely going to introduce some latency. It's just a matter of how much. So with all this kind of stuff, you need to test it and you need to make decisions about, is it worth it, given what it's giving you and given what it's costing you in terms of latency, complexity, things going wrong. So start simple, please. Another bit of software that's pretty important is your booking software. You're definitely going to want to be taking bookings and letting people pay you money. That's a pretty important part of this. You can almost certainly use the software that you already have. You probably don't want to be playing with new booking software at the moment. One of the things that probably your software doesn't do is automatic time zone detection, because who would have thought that would be an important feature for an escape room booking software? It's really not something that you would have cared about before. But now you can accept games from all over the world, and people are going to get confused because they're going to be in different time zones. What I've seen people do at the moment, though, is put a big note above their booking widget that says, "We're in this time zone. Watch out." You can even get a little bit more fancy and put a bit of JavaScript on your page that just pops up a warning that actually tells people if they're in a different time zone. But yeah, and I think if we carry on with this is maybe a feature. This is maybe a feature you should ask for from your booking software if you need it, to let them know that this is something that's useful to you. And I'm sure they will start adding it now that there is actually a need for it. Another option that would be great in your booking software, but it probably doesn't do, is to integrate with Zoom. Or whatever video software you're using. So when people make a booking, you now need to create a meeting in Zoom. You can start by doing that manually, though. So I would always say that that's the best thing to start with. One option I did see that's available for some booking software is doing it via Zapier integration. So I had a look, and the one that I could tell would definitely support this is Zola. And what Zapier is it's like kind of duct tape for the internet. It's a bit of software that allows you to take two other bits of software and connect them together. So Zapier would allow you to say, when someone makes a booking on Zola, create a meeting in Zoom. And that's really useful. So that you could potentially use that if you're using Zola to automate your things. And you may be able to find that you could do that with your other booking software. This is definitely something, if you're interested in doing this, come to the Live Video Escape Rooms Facebook group and chat about it. I'm very, very happy to help anyone who's trying to do that kind of thing, and very happy to chat about how you can make that kind of thing work. So the final thing that you might want in terms of software is an inventory system. This is showing items as they are found. That can be really useful. People are doing various things at the moment, and I would always recommend going and playing other people's games and seeing how they're doing it. So, for example, Rob at Ready Mayor 1 has a custom system where he gives people passwords as they find items. They type it into a web page, and that shows the items. That works fairly well. Escape.anywhere are using, I believe, a Adobe image gallery thing, and they actually have an app for that on the phone, which is strapped to the GM, where they can just swipe up to show a particular picture. So you don't need to necessarily have custom software to do this. You can reuse an existing photo gallery software. I've seen people use Google photo galleries as well to do this. You don't necessarily need it. One thing that Julia at Haas Escape said that I thought was really interesting is that she thinks it would just, for her particular game, it would just take away immersion. And she actually has sort of better solutions for her particular game to this, where she's just really careful about how she organises items as you find them. So you've always got them on a table. You can go and have a look at them through the camera of the Games Master. So yeah, there were different solutions. I think it very much depends on what kind of game you have and how much that requires people to be looking close at lots of different things. Right. Oh, excuse me there. My slides have just reset, but I thought this might happen, so I have a solution to get there again. Unfortunately, I have to use a special slide thing that works with the broadcast software, so I'm not able to use a normal keynote or something like that. There we go. Right, so the game. I want to look a little bit about how you run a game and some other sort of considerations. So the first thing I wanted to talk about very briefly is the pre-game. When people come to play a game, it's a social thing, I think. And if they come to play your game in person, they're going to be in your lobby chatting first. So why not let them do that in your virtual game? In Zoom, you can enable join before host, or you can just join early and keep yourself muted. That means people can all sort of assemble maybe 10 minutes before in the video chat. They can chat to each other and catch up before they actually play the game. Likewise, in the post game, people are really interested in the games in general. I think at the moment that's what I'm hearing from people running them. So definitely stick around and chat with the players after the game. But then maybe let them chat with each other a bit. So we've played some games where the Games Master has chatted to us after the game and then just said, "Oh, I'm going to leave now, but you can stay around." And something like Zoom will give them 40 minutes of free time after the game. It doesn't cost you anything, and yeah, it just maybe lets them have a bit of a chat and catch up and a bit of social contact, which I think is probably a big part of what they wanted from the game. So you're making their experience better. So I'd highly recommend doing that. So also it's worth looking at when I want to talk a little bit about when you're adapting a game. So when you're adapting a game, you need to, or in fact creating a new game for this kind of medium, you should be looking at what puzzles make sense now. Are some puzzles just too tactile, or do some puzzles require multiple players in different positions, or are some puzzles just too hard? Remember that this game is going to be harder because people are going to be only doing things. You can't have players all off doing different things so much anymore. So it's worth thinking, what can you remove? You want to balance the game back so it feels like a decent game in the time you're allowing people to have. You may need to remove sort of more physical and tactile puzzles. You may also want to remove puzzles that are just hard for you with your streaming get-up to access and play. If they require getting down low somewhere or getting into something, that might just not be practical with whatever streaming setup you happen to have on your body. And another tip that I picked up from 11th Hour Escape Room does this, but I think a few other places will do this a little bit, is that if you have a game with a lot of locks and a lot of different codes, that you might have before relied on people all going to the different trying different codes in all the different locks. That's probably not so much fun when they have to watch you individually try each one. So you may want to just decide that when people give you a code for a lock, you're just going to go to the correct one. You've also got choices about interacting with the players. Are you going to be in character or not? Julia from Haas Escape does a very good job of staying in character the whole time. So yeah, check out her game if you want to see that. You're going to find that smaller groups are easier, so maybe restrict the number of players, or at least strongly suggest the number of players is smaller. For a larger group, you may want to suggest they elect a leader who is the person who actually tells you what to do. You're going to have to practice camera skills. So practice where to stand, how to film, mark out good spots for the camera, hold an item on screen while moving. So one tip to reduce sort of motion sickness is to actually hold an item in front of the screen as you move. Rob from Ready Mayor 1 does that, and that seems to work quite well. And then the other thing is that you are now able to give hints and nudges much more subtly. So a slight movement of the camera, a slight lingering over an object is maybe all they need to encourage them to look at that. Just how you respond to questions, whether you just say, "Oh, I don't think that looks like it's interesting," or whether you ask them for clarification. And all these things you can use to balance your game and make it right for the right level of difficulty for this new medium. Oh, and pardon me, because my slides did mess up, I have to now manually switch between sections. So I'm running out of time here, so I'm going to talk very briefly about pricing. There are different pricing types. You've got per game, per player, and per connection. Per player is like a traditional escape room. Usually, a lot of you will be charging people per player. The only problem with that is you're now going to be having to count the number of people on the screen. That could be a bit strange, a bit of a weird start to the game. Per connection is maybe easier with the new constraints. So you're charging per video connection, because you'll often find there'll be multiple people around each video connection. And then the very simplest is per game. And I've shown here the percentage of people using each of these pricing types for the games that we have currently on livevideoescaperooms.com. I've normalized all the pricing here because the pricing over the games that we're listing at the moment are in pounds, dollars, and euros. So I've normalized them to euros here, and I'm showing what the prices are like when we're talking about 5 players over 2 connections and 2 players over 1 connection. So obviously for the per game prices, they don't vary in those ways. But yeah, this shows that for 2 players, your median price is about $45. For 5 players at the moment, your median price is $90. Now you may there's questions over whether these prices are sustainable at the moment. Obviously, right now, people are using resources that weren't otherwise going to be used. Maybe that's pushing down the prices a bit. And also, this is very new. Players don't really understand what's going on with this yet, so that may be also putting down the price. So it'll be interesting to see what becomes the sort of a sustainable price that people start to continue to offer as we move on with this. And I again have to switch manually between sections now. My slides is broken. So players. This is based on the interviews I've been doing with various creators. So I'm hearing that people are seeing a lot of couples playing. So a lot of people. A couple connecting from just one connection and playing. I've certainly been playing a lot of games with my girlfriend. It's a really nice thing to do. It's a bit different from just watching TV. And then smaller groups are what you're seeing. So groups of 2 to 6. I think this is mostly because people are encouraging not to have bigger groups. What I was very encouraged to hear is that a lot of people are seeing big multi-game bookings, and that's both corporate bookings from companies looking for team building things, which of course is a massive thing right now. What are companies going to do to keep their teams cohesive? But also from other sort of social groups, so from churches and apartment blocks and that kind of things, who are going to have social events, but they're now been cancelled. And they're looking for things to do. So if you have contact lists of those kind of people, call them all, email them all, find out what they're doing, find out what they need. Birthday parties are also really big, including kids' birthday parties. So family-friendly rooms there's only a few of them at the moment. I would highly recommend looking into that. The other really encouraging thing I was hearing from everyone who had more than one game is that return business is really good. So people are playing one game, then they're playing the other games, which I think is the best feedback you can really get. If someone plays your game and then they play your other games, that's what you want to see, isn't it? Brandon in the chat just mentioned youth groups, so that's a great idea as well. Any kind of group that was previously doing other kind of social activities and now can't get in touch with them, see if they're interested. And then the final thing is that I'm hearing from a lot of people that they're getting booked completely solid, and that's again amazing. So there is, I think, a strong demand for this at the moment. I think right now it's all coming from enthusiasts, but I think as more people discover that this is a thing, and as people get more and more bored in isolation, I think that's just gonna grow. A really nice quote from one of my interviews with Wayne at Southend Escape Room is that they say that it's going to save the company. They've gone from not having any revenue, of course, because they can't have any players, to being booked solid with these online games, which is amazing. Really, really cool to hear. Just a few things before I finish. So the first is I've made a website called Live Video Escape Rooms. This is kind of my way of helping out. I'm trying to introduce players to the concept. Go there and play some of the games. That's the first thing you should do if you're considering doing this. Play some other people's games, see how it works. If you make anything, let me submit a listing. I'll list you on there. I'm not charging for any of this. This is not a paid site. I'm not going to make it a paid site. I'm never going to ask for a cut of anyone's games or anything like that. I just want to make this thing work. And you should also, if you're interested in this, come join the community. We've got live video escape rooms on Facebook. Come join. Ask questions. It's shaping up. There's about, I think, 130 people in the group right now. It's shaping up to be quite a nice little community. You'll be really welcome. Please do come and join. And finally, these interviews I've been recording them, and I'm going to make some podcasts and YouTube videos based on them. So, live video escape rooms on YouTube, that's set up already. The podcasts will be from the website soon. Come subscribe, there's been some really interesting videos. I'm currently learning how to edit them all together so I can actually upload them. Thank you to everyone. Thanks for everyone for listening right now. Thanks to Lewis for putting on this conference. Particularly thanks to the people I interviewed. So Daniel from helpusescape.com, Floyd and Wayne from Southend Escape Rooms, Julia from Haas Escape, Rob from Ready Mayor 1, Ethan from Escape.Anywhere, and everyone in the live video escape rooms group. You've all been great. Please go play those people's games. They're really cool. Sorry, this went a little bit longer than I expected. I don't think we've got that long for questions, but please do ask any questions you have now, and I'll do my best to answer them. So I think there's a special questions tab. So I'm going to switch into that now. Brandon's asking for game recommendations. I would highly recommend Julia's game. So that's Haas Escape, Don Vito Investigation. That's a really nice looking game. Julia does an amazing job of staying in character. So if you're thinking of doing your games sort of with the sort of full immersion like that, then definitely watch and learn from her. There's Rob at Ready Mayor 1, so readymayor1.com. That's Rock Avenue Escape Rooms. That's a really fun game. Rob's a really fun games master. So he's not quite so much in character. He's still semi in character. But yeah, he's just really fun. And we had a really good time at that. Some other games. The Virus at Southend Escape Rooms is really cool. That's really fun. I'd recommend checking out Daniel's games at helpusescape.com. So he's actually built some of his mobile escape rooms in his house. So maybe the rooms are a little bit lower spec, but he makes them really fun, and I think he shows that what you can do if you're just creating some stuff with what you have. His games are incredibly fun, and me and my team have really enjoyed them. So Alex asks, Do you think people who played the video version will come back later and play the live version? I don't know if they'll come back and play the live version of that same game. I don't know. I don't know quite how people work in that respect. I guess if you've played it via video, you have seen a lot of the puzzles, although I would imagine you would have changed them a little bit, so probably you'll get some people doing that. I would definitely think that you'll get people who play your live games and then come and play your other games in person. And that may work very well if you have some games that are just really not suited to live and some which are, especially because the games that are suited to live are going to tend to be the older games. So yeah, I think you will get some of that, but it remains to be seen. Yeah, another important thing is you're going to get a lot of people playing who are in different parts of the world who would never be able to come play your games usually. So those people are completely new players. Let me have a look at another question. Ricardo asks, is multiple Games Masters a thing in live video escape rooms? So I've not seen anyone doing that yet. I've heard people talk about it. I think it would be quite hard to do. You might also lose a bit of immersion because, of course, you're going to be then seeing the two Games Masters with all their kit on. It's also maybe a cost issue because that's two people's wages potentially. But I'm sure some people are going to work out those issues, and I'm sure someone's going to make something awesome with that. But we're not really seeing it yet, so I don't know quite how it's going to work yet. In terms of what you do about puzzles that take two people at the moment, my advice would be to remove them or change them so that they don't, because right now you just have to change things so that they fit the constraints that you have. Let me have a look at another one. So Nicole's asking that if most people are playing these games at the moment are escape room enthusiasts. Have people you've interviewed with have experience of expanding their potential pool of audiences to non-enthusiasts? I think some of them are starting to get a few of those just through recommendations and things. But yeah, this is still very early days. I personally have been doing some PR, so I've managed to get one bit of press so far. Hopefully we'll do a little bit better than that in the future. But yeah, the idea is to tap into the whole market of people just looking for experiences that they can do online during lockdown. David says there seems to be a very wide range of prices at the moment. Do you know if people have based their prices on same as their regular rooms or just making up prices to test the field? I think it's a bit of both. I think the fact that there's such a wide range of prices right now is a testament to how new this is. No one knows how to price things at the best of times, and these are strange times. So yeah, some people have been basing it on what they would normally charge. Some people are basing it on just what they need. So what would mean that their business can carry on going, and that of course massively varies between people. And some people are just trying different things or just pricing based on some other game that they know of. So Brandon says, do avatars solely move in the direction of the players in your experience? Yeah, in the games I played so far, that's what people are doing. In some games, maybe the avatar will kind of, if you're not instructing them at the moment, they'll sort of start looking around the room and that kind of stuff. But in general, the avatars tend to just respond to the player's instructions. Cool. I think that's all the questions. So if anyone has any other questions, if you want to ask them now, but I think otherwise we've reached 12 p.m. So thank you so much for everyone coming. Just to remind you again, please join the Facebook group, go to the website, play some games, and stay safe out there. Goodbye. Thanks everyone.